Hi there, everyone, and thanks for joining us for AMC's For Your Consideration Movie Talk for Movie Fans. This is episode number 5, originally recorded on Monday, August the 13th, 2012, at the beautiful AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you enjoy the show. Greetings, salutations, everybody. Welcome to this installment of AMC's For Your Consideration Movie Talk for Movie Fans, where we sit around here and we talk about, of all things, movies. As always, I'm your host. My name is John Campy. I'm the senior editor of AMC Movie News. And sitting to my immediate right, he is a regular panelist here now, an analyst for us here from JoeBlow.com, a film critic. He's known around the interwebs as Jimmy O. James Oster. James, thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you so much.
And of course, to his right, she is the associate editor here at AMC Movie News, Miss Roth Cornett. Roth?
Hello.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us today as we sit around here and talk about a lot of film stuff, a lot of film-related news and everything that's going on. Hey, listen, if you're joining us live in the chat board right now, and in case you didn't know, we do this show live every Monday and Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're joining us live right now and you're watching this on the Ustream page, make sure you jump into the chat board. You can see right beside the player, the social stream chat, where Ryan, who's back there at the table, he's keeping his eye on the chat board right now. He'll be interacting with you. We're keeping our eye on your comments. And if you have really interesting comments or questions that you would like us to bring up a little bit later in the show, just drop them in the chat board. Ryan's going to be watching that chat board, and he will bring them up for us to answer at the end of the show. And listen, if you want to make sure you watch this show later, let's say you can only watch a little bit of it live, you don't want to watch it later, make sure you subscribe to AMC Theaters' YouTube channel at youtube.com/AMC Theaters, and you can find all of the For Your Consideration episodes there. With that being said, we're going to jump into it here without wasting too much time. This weekend is a really interesting weekend for film in that basically all of the films opening are ones that I'm happy about and excited about. And there's so many movies that come out that does not happen all the time. But I'm actually legitimately kind of looking forward to all the films that are opening up this weekend. So we're going to talk about right now 3 in particular. We're going to talk about Expendables 2. We're going to talk about Timothy Green. And we're going to talk about Paranorman. Now, we got on Facebook. In case you don't follow us, you should follow us on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/AMC Theaters. And this morning we put up a post asking you guys, which of these films are you really looking forward to seeing this weekend? And you guys gave us some feedback, and I know we've got a few of your feedback ready to go. So, Ryan, what were people on our Facebook page saying they're looking forward to this weekend?
So, from Facebook, we have Jackie Clark, who's saying all of the above. Stephanie Rodriguez, Expendables 2, my husband can't wait for this movie to come out. Tommy Williams says, I'm seeing all 3, but out of the 3, I'm most excited to see Expendables the most. That's pretty bold. And on Expendables 2, we have Matt McCoy, Dennis Freeman, Laurie Wheeler, Anne Marie, Ben Simmons, Logan Miller. Everyone saying Expendables 2.
So Expendables 2 seems to be the big one, which is, and we're going to start with Expendables 2, which is odd because, as I was mentioning previously, I was one of these guys who, I liked the first Expendables. I did not really like it, and I did not love it at all. It seemed to be a film to me that had some identity crisis of what it wanted to be. It wanted to be stupid, fun action, but then, it has this Mickey Rourke trying to win an Oscar kind of moment with this big, deep, dark...
I feel like maybe he should have won it for that. That was pretty amazing
maybe.
stuff. It just didn't belong in that movie.
No, right?
Yeah.
Another nomination. Come on, seriously.
I mean, it just didn't feel like a film that knew what it wanted to be or knew where it was going. So I wasn't quite sure how to feel about an Expendables 2. But Jimmy, you and I saw Expendables 2. Should people be looking forward to seeing it? What did you think of it? Let's start with you.
Absolutely. The what you say is correct. I liked Expendables 1. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it, yes, with flaws and all. But Expendables 2 is exactly what you wanted Expendables to be. It's tongue in cheek. It's wild. It's the explosions are crazy. It is R-rated. There is no PG-13.
And make no mistake about it. This is an R-rated film.
And you have all these. I mean, Chuck Norris is ridiculously bad, but in a good way. You're just like.
But he was exactly what he should have been.
Yes.
That's the thing. Yeah.
And they found the most amazing Chuck Norris quote ever. It's going to come out of the Expendables 2, I tell you. This is the one that people will quote.
The thing for me, what makes it, and I'm with you, I had so much fun watching the Expendables 2. And here was the big key difference. You pretty much figure out right away in the film, this one is not going to take itself seriously.
No,
At
not at all.
And it feels like there's this slide, and by slide you think negatively, but I mean positively. It feels like there's a slide in the movie where it descends more and more and more into realizing, look, we are not a serious movie, folks. We are not a serious movie, and it kind of gets sillier and sillier, but in the exact right way. To the point, I think I mentioned this to you when we came out of the theater, I'm not sure, but to the point where by the time you get near the end of the movie, Expendables 2 almost feels like a parody. It like a Hot Shots Part 2 or an Airplane 2 or something. It almost feels like a parody, but it felt right.
Yes.
When you're watching it and they start descending into all this stuff. I mean, look, you can't have Arnold Schwarzenegger bust through a door and go, I'll be back, or I'm back, or whatever. You can't have him do that and pretend to take yourself seriously. You just can't. So what did they do in Expendables 2? They embraced it. They wrapped their arms around it, shoved their tongue down its throat, and said, I love this, and this is what we're going to be. And the whole audience that you and I were with, we all seem to embrace that too. We're like, yeah, this is the direction you should be going. But don't get me wrong, it's not like this is a slapstick comedy.
No,
there's
not at all.
action in this film. Talk a little bit about the action that we saw.
The action is what you want it to be. I mean, you're talking Stallone, you're talking Chuck Norris, you're talking Schwarzenegger. You don't want pretty, just you want heads being blown off. You want it all, and you get it here. It is just I lost count of how many heads go flying
In
off.
the first 10 minutes,
Yes,
you lose track.
yes. You're and the fact that
And that's literal.
literal, yes, literal. This is not just and the gunshot. Oh, and my favorite scene without giving too much away, it involves Statham in a church.
Oh, that scene was fantastic.
Brilliant.
No, the best scene involves Dolph Lundgren in a cave. They take something from his real life, and Gunnar becomes the star of the show for me. in
Dolph
that
did
moment.
steal the movie. He stole
did.
the movie.
The interesting, and when I was talking to Dolph Lundgren about it, I said, it feels like out of all the characters in the film, the one character that we actually get to know a lot more, is Gunnar. And it's like, yeah.
And he's the exact right kind of crazy for this movie. Like, this is just, it's so funny. And it is ridiculous. And it doesn't take it itself serious. Jen Yamato said, I think on the first podcast, if you're asking if the Expendables is cheesy, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they weren't doing it right initially. Now they did it right. It is unabashedly ridiculous, like completely almost not a movie, but it doesn't matter because it's just there to be fun and explosive and ridiculous. And Dolph is my favorite character. Gunner's to me the best character in the movie because he's insane.
Look at it this way. Expendables 1 is for the hardcore fans, the people that just love that stuff. They thrive on it. It's flawed. We don't care. Expendables 2 is for everybody. If you like action, if you want it, and it has Charisma Carpenter. I love her. I
don't know why she's not in more stuff. I've never understood why after Angel was done, why she didn't take off. I really thought she would.
I know. I want to see her in every movie from now on. So there you go.
And let's talk for a second about Chuck Norris.
Yes.
Chuck Norris in the Expendables 2 embodies that whole, it's just, to me, is the living embodiment of the philosophy they brought to Expendables 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's not take ourselves seriously. Let's embrace what everybody loves, which is the silliness of this whole thing. And from the first moment that Chuck Norris, I don't want to mislead anybody, think that Chuck Norris isn't in, 55 minutes of this movie. I'm not saying he's in a lot.
The exact right amount.
But he's not just a cameo either. He ain't just a cameo.
Yeah.
But every second that Chuck Norris is in this movie, you're either grinning or laughing your head off.
And he shows up at the exact right time.
He
Yes,
shows up
at the
exact
exact
right
moments.
time.
in this way, and I think that's what turned it for me, because I had seen the Expendables. I wasn't a huge fan of this, but then when Chuck Norris comes in, the way he comes in,
Oh my gosh,
and then
yeah.
the way he goes out, I'm like, oh, I'm on board.
And then the way he
This
comes
is
back,
insane.
and then
Yes.
and, and Bruce Willis was doing a great Bruce Willis. Arnold Schwarzenegger was being Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, it was fun. And we're talking about the action too, especially when you get into some of the key fight scenes. We're talking about Jason Statham in the church. We're talking about these other things. They kind of switch gears a bit when they get into these heavy action scenes where, okay, forget the silliness for a second. We're going to show you a badass action scene.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. And then they quickly slide back out.
Yeah.
And, to me, it was just, go ahead.
And they know what the fans want to see. I mean, because you don't put Jean-Claude Van Damme in that movie and not have him do some insane roundhouse kick. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't. And so they know exactly what their fans want to see from each particular player, and they deliver. We want that Chuck Norris line. We want to see Van Damme do that kick. This is what we want to see from them. And so they deliver that, and then they keep it just as fun and moving as possible.
Yeah, and I don't want to misrepresent and say, oh my gosh, this is the best movie of the year.
No,
I'm
no,
not saying that at all. I'm just saying, man, I was so happy to walk in and see that they did this movie right.
Yeah.
And the way it should be done, considering all the players involved. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I really am. I'm going to go see it again.
I also have to say, I got to give Jean-Claude Van Damme was awesome.
Wasn't he
was.
great?
He
Wow.
honestly was. I was
Wow.
surprised because, the funny thing to me about him, though, is that he didn't go to where Mickey Rourke goes because he probably can't. But
Right.
and that's okay. But he was kind of like playing the villain. Like, he really was trying to play this character.
And how great was his first kill?
Oh,
His
That's what
first
I'm
kill
talking
is
about.
so awesome in
that's
this movie.
what his fans want to
Absolutely.
see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's clearly from our panel. And then look, once again, I don't want to overemphasize or exaggerate. I'm not giving this movie a 10 out of 10 or anything like that. But I was so pleasantly satisfied with this movie that I think all three of us are going to recommend that you run
Yeah.
out and see
Oh,
it.
yeah.
It's fun. It's not meant to be great cinema. It does what we wanted it to do in the first one.
Right. All right, let's move on to the next film that's opening up this week. It's actually opening up on Wednesday, and it's the new film with Jennifer. I will crawl across oceans of glass to see anything this woman is in. I've been in love with Jennifer Garner. Actually, Jennifer, if you're watching, and I know that you are. I know I kind of play it cool when we sit down in interview formats. That's just me being a professional. I am in love with you. I've been in love with you ever since the first episode of Alias. This has been she's been my Hollywood crush for a
What
very,
about
very long time.
Felicity, John?
Felicity's never been my crush.
No, she was in Felicity.
Oh, was she in
Yes.
Felicity?
Yeah.
See, I didn't
Where
watch
she got her start.
Felicity. There you go. I saw a few episodes of Felicity.
some
not
fan
much.
you are.
But not only is it Jennifer Garner, but it's also Joel Edgerton.
My person that I will swim across oceans of glass to see his film.
Joel Edgerton is so great. I mean, you don't get many actors who can go from a film like Warrior.
Yeah. And Animal Kingdom before it.
Right,
Yeah.
and then slide into such a heartwarming kind of film like Timothy Green.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a rare gift, and of course, he will always be known as he'll be an icon in Hollywood forever for being young Uncle Owen in, of course, the Star Wars prequels.
No.
Or maybe not.
He will have a much bigger career than that.
yes, thank you.
But this new movie, The Odd Life of Timothy Green, I was intrigued with this film when I first saw the trailers for it. I didn't really understand it. Look, what we do know from the trailers is these two parents, Joel Edgerton and Jennifer Garner, they've tried and tried and tried to have a child, and finally the doctor tells them you're unable to have children. And in the midst of their sorrow, they decide, okay, in order to help us move on, we're going to take it, we're going to break out a bottle of wine, we're going to write down on a piece of paper all the things that our kid would have been. And they kind of have a little private party out of it. And then when they're done, they take all those sheets of paper, put it into a box, go into the backyard and bury the box in the garden as kind of a symbol for them that now they can move on. But, of course, there's always a but, or there's no movie. Something miraculous happens, and as you see from the trailer, I'm not giving any spoilers away, a child bursts forth from the ground by a child actor, C.J. Adams. I think it's Adams.
C.J. Adams, yeah.
C.J. Adams.
Adorable.
Right.
He's so cute.
And the parents, he becomes their kid, and he embodies everything that they wrote down on their list. I adored this film. I really, really did. Now, Jimmy, I know you didn't have a chance to see
I
it yet.
haven't seen it yet.
But Roth and I have seen it. I really adored this film, and it is sweet. It is touching. This kid, C.J. Adams, I mean, he's like that picture you see of puppies on Facebook that people put up because you want to go, oh, C.J. Adams is the living embodiment of the cute puppy picture on Facebook.
He is the human embodiment of the cute puppy picture.
Yeah, I mean,
or the cute kitten picture.
Or any of the above. He is just so damn cute, this kid.
He is. But what's really great, too, is that he, in a not too precocious kind of a way, like, I didn't know that I would believe that this child is sort of delivering wisdom. I think that's a hard thing to do.
Right.
And a lot of films attempt it, and sometimes it works, and when it does, it's brilliant, you know? And they find the right kid. This is the right kid because he simultaneously really seems like a normal 10-year-old boy who's just so sweet and open and innocent. But he's also kind of delivering the wisdom to the people around him, which is what the film needs him to do. And they auditioned a lot of kids for this role, and they thought he was too, forgive the pun, green, because he had just had a tiny little role in Dan in Real Life. Just a little bitty role in Dan in
But
Real
you're not
Life.
going to get a kid this age with a lot of experience.
Well, you're not, but you'd be surprised.
Well, it's true.
These kids can be very seasoned. And so, but he was absolutely, if that casting had been wrong, the film wouldn't work.
Right.
And it was completely right. So I think that's kind of the best thing that comes out of the movie is I was just sitting there.
You're right.
going,
They don't get the casting right of the kid.
Oh, yeah.
In Timothy Green. They don't get the right Timothy Green.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
I should also mention I've always been a huge fan of a very underutilized, underappreciated actor in Hollywood by the name of David Morse. And whenever he pops up in a film, I get excited. And he plays this great role. And there's this really touching moment right near the end of the film. I won't say what it is, but it involves David Morse right near the end of the film that had everybody in the theater I was in. I was at the world premiere at the El Capitan in Hollywood here, and everybody was in tears. I mean, a happy, touching, emotional tears, not, oh my gosh, the end of life is beautiful tears. It was so nice and so sweet. There is one thing, though, we got to point out. If we're going to talk about The Odd Life of Timothy Green, we got to point this out. And you kind of, once again, this isn't really given a spoiler way because you see it in the trailer. The film pretty much comes right out and asks you right off the bat, as an audience member, we need you to suspend a massive amount of disbelief on this issue in order for us to move forward. And of course, that issue, which I thought about before seeing the movie, is how do these people explain where this child came from?
Right. And then there's a secondary explanation that comes later that's almost even harder
That's
to
even
reconcile.
harder to reconcile.
You know?
But it's like right at the beginning, you hear in the trailer, Jennifer Garner says in one of the versions of the trailer, first, you got to understand this might be hard for you to believe. To me, that was kind of like the movie asking us as the audience, look, we understand we're taking a huge logic leap here. We just need you to come along for the ride with us. Just suspend your disbelief on this big elephant in the room and come along with us. And I didn't know if I would be able to do that, and I did. Then another giant elephant comes along at the end of the film that's kind of in connection with the first elephant in the room. That was a little harder to wrap your head around.
It was a lot harder. Their brother elephants.
But everybody was in tears. I don't think they even noticed. But there is the huge thing of suspending your disbelief to move forward. And we're not even talking about a child popping out of the ground. I mean, it's the magic of movies. But if you can, I think you're going to find Timothy Green to be a very endearing, very sweet. Your mileage may vary, but for me, I was really my heart was warmed by it. I enjoyed it. Did I just say my heart was warmed by it?
You did.
My heart was warmed by it.
My heart is warmed by you saying that.
I will say this. I went into this film thinking, because I'm just not somebody that would naturally probably go seek out a family film, if I'm just off on my own. I mean, depending on what it is, but in general terms, but I walked out and I thought that was really sweet, and it was really unapologetically sweet in a way that I feel like, and I've said this when we did the red carpet and so forth, that you kind of need in a cynical world. And when I talked to Joel Edgerton, one of the things we talked about was that he was like, well, it's really not that different from Animal Kingdom and Warrior. Totally it is. But because it's really about family, and I think the other thing that was done really well is that even though we do have these massive sort of leaps of faith and tropes that happen in family films, the people feel very real. The relationships feel oddly real to me. A nice version of life, but real. I liked the relationship that Joel Edgerton and Jennifer Garner had, and but the main thing in that movie that comes out of it for me is this kid and how he was able to play this role.
So once again, the second movie we're talking about, of course, is The Odd Life of Timothy Green, and we're 2 out of 2 saying we think you should go see this film. I really think
if you have kids,
okay, maybe
sure,
I'll go
take
see
your
it
kids to see it
because it will warm your heart, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I watched the trailer and I'm thinking, if you can't get past that and you watch the trailer, please don't even bother. Don't even waste your time. But for me, the family films always have that kind of magic innocence where, you know what? Pete's Dragon can't happen, but it's cute.
I haven't thought about Pete's Dragon in a long time.
I'm weird like that. I had a crush on Helen Reddy. But yeah, I mean, to me, my thing is it just looks so darn sad, man.
It's not really as sad as you would imagine, because I think that anything that happens in the film that's sad is purposeful, and that it resolves.
We don't want to
in a
give
nice
too much
way.
away, but when I say everybody tears at the end, it's more emotional tears. I don't want to give too much away.
And
Let's
kids
move
will
on.
like it.
Fine, I'll go see it.
Yeah, kids will like it. I think adults will like it. I think it's worth seeing. Moving on to the third film that's also opening up this weekend is one that I've been chastised for because I have not put it on my top 10 films to look forward to in 2012. But is the new stop motion animated, correct?
It is.
Yes.
Stop motion animated film Paranorman. And only one of us at this table has seen it. So we'll just touch on this, but that is Roth. So Roth, just give us a quick. I know you really enjoyed this film.
I really of the 3 movies that are coming out this weekend, to me, Paranorman is absolutely the best film.
Wow.
And it is also a lot of fun. It is funny. It has everything. I mean, I know I'm gushing a bit here, but at the end of the year, things will shake up how they do. But this is one of my favorite films of this summer. And maybe this year. It is funny, it's charming, it's unique, it is incredibly beautiful visually. The characters are rich. It turns on itself. It plays with the horror tropes, but not in a way that we've seen done over and over again. All of it is there to support the story, which is a very unique story. It goes to a dark place, but it resolves in a gorgeous way, and it manages to tread the line between the dark and the light, that it will still work for kids and it will reach adults on a very deep level. This is the kind of movie that you can watch when you're a kid and watch later and again and again and again, like The Dark Crystal, and get more and more and more out of it as you mature. Because fundamentally what the movie is about, in my opinion, is basically fear. It takes the horror tropes, it plays with the idea of fear, and it turns that fear on itself and explores all of the bad decisions that we all make because we're basing them on fear and many different kinds of fears. It's really good. I mean, it's really, really a good movie.
Well, talking to families out there, what age do you think kids would like it?
That's a really good question, and I thought about that. I really think it depends on the kid, and parents will know their own kid, because the truth is, toward the end of the movie particularly, there's something that's revealed that is really heartbreaking and really scary, but beautiful. And I think if your kid has the emotional maturity to take it, they should. Maybe you could go with a 7-year-old kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they have that emotional maturity, but it could scare a young kid. It could go in that direction. But I would love to take my kid to this movie if I thought they could handle it and talk to them about the themes. Love.
I'm taking mine on Thursday, so I can't wait.
You can take Xander for sure. Xander
He loves that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, then. So there's 3. Now, there was a film that we haven't talked about because I haven't seen it. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, and that is the new film Sparkle. So Roth hasn't seen it. I haven't seen it. Jimmy, you have not seen it, so we can't talk about it. But that's why, if you're wondering, hey, why haven't they mentioned Sparkle? Well, that's why. And we can't really discuss a film we haven't seen. No. So listen, folks, we're going to move on to the next topic here. So once again, Expendables 2, apparently Paranorman, Odd Life of Timothy Green.
Sounds like a win-win.
Yeah, you're good either way. Whatever you decide to go to see this weekend. Listen, we're going to get into the next topic here, which we're going to be talking a little bit about Red Dawn. But before we get into it, I want to remind you, if you're watching us live and in the chat board, start throwing your questions and your topics in to the chat board because Ryan is over there. He is collecting your questions, and we're going to be dedicating a chunk of the show a little bit later on to just addressing the stuff you want to bring up, that you want to have us talk about. That being said, a new trailer came out this week for the new Thor, or I should say Chris Hemsworth film, Red Dawn, which is, of course, the remake of the Patrick Swayze film.
Other people were in it too.
Oh, no, many people. Many people.
Leah Thompson.
Jennifer Grey.
Yeah,
Leah Thompson.
yes. One of the Estevez, I believe.
Yes.
So, I mean, lots of kind of iconic people from that era. You've got, Josh Hutcherson is in the new one.
It's lots of
Adrian
iconic people from this era.
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth, man.
And Chris Hemsworth.
Great cast.
The trailer came out. Now, this is a film that has been waiting. And it's been waiting for some time.
It got trapped in the bankruptcy. It got shelved during the MGM, the financial crisis.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then there was some questions about what's the best time for us to do this.
And then they changed the nationality of the villain.
Well, yeah, originally the villain when they originally wrote the script, and they were, I don't know if they already got into shoot. Dennis, I think Dennis.
They shot it.
Okay, so they had shot.
They shot the whole thing, and then they went back and digitally changed all of the flags.
Right, because the villains in this version of Red Dawn were going to be China. China was going to be invading the U.S. And after they shot the film,
they realized that was ridiculous.
So they decided that the invading army was going to be North Korea.
Nice
because that's our actual enemy.
So
China already owns the U.S. Why would they invade it?
So they went back and made those changes. And so for a lot of different reasons, this film has been waiting to come out and come into release. So the trailer comes out, and I got to say, I liked the trailer.
Oh, John.
I did. I liked the trailer. But I will say this before I go into things that I liked about the trailer, and this kind of piggybacks on a topic that we had last week. I am all for, I have no problem, zero problem, with actors of different nationalities playing characters of different nationalities. Because, I don't care if an Englishman plays an Argentinian. I don't care if an American plays a Scottish guy. I don't care. I don't care. Because every time an actor steps in front of the camera, he is playing somebody he's not. That's what acting is. The actor is pretending to be something that he is not. So why should we care if a British guy is playing an American guy? I don't care. As long as it comes across well and okay. That being said, one of the things that pulled me out of the trailer a bit, as I'm watching the trailer, that kept pulling me out of the trailer was, look, and if you've heard me talk about Thor, I really dig Chris Hemsworth. I think he's great. I enjoy talking with him when I get the opportunity to. I actually really liked him. I thought he was the best part of Snow White and the Huntsman.
He
I
was.
really like him in that
Absolutely.
movie. I think he's got a really great career ahead of him.
He should always be with his shirt off, though.
And apparently should always be with his shirt off. But I'm going to say this. It did pull me out a little bit watching the trailer and seeing that this is a rah-rah USA movie, which we got to have every once in a while. Mm-hmm. A rah-rah USA movie, and hearing Chris Hemsworth talk about this is our home and waving the American flag and distinctly hearing his Australian accent coming through it. Like, if that's going to happen, if you're going to look, like I said, I have no problem with different people playing different nationalities, what they really are. But like, if you're going to have Captain America, you should probably not have Mr. Bean play him. I'm just saying. And watching this
that might
rah-rah,
be interesting, actually, yeah.
patriotism kind of film with this stuff going on, and distinctly, you can just tell he's fighting that accent and losing the fight sometimes.
Well, because he shot this a long time ago.
Yes, people got to remember that this is a long time
ago. How many years ago was it? Like 4 years ago?
4 years
3 or 4 years ago that they shot this.
Because it was shelved for a really long time. I saw them showing footage from it at the Scream Awards, I think 3 years ago.
20 years ago they were
So they
planning
must have
on
shot
this.
it about 4 years ago. And it's to their benefit that Josh Hutcherson and Chris Hemsworth have blown up the way that they have, But yeah, he may not have been as comfortable with the accent as he is now,
Right. Which made, I think, just a very odd. I love Chris. He's going to be awesome. I'll see anything Chris is in. I just think it was an odd casting choice to put a guy with a really distinct Australian accent who was having a hard time with it into this patriotic kind of, like
flag waving. I think this is the thing about Red Dawn to me. And there's been a few movies like this, and I go, why are we doing this? Because I understand that, like Jimmy was saying earlier, that we are in a time that embraces nostalgia.
Yeah.
You know, it's nostalgia
Yes.
wrapped in nostalgia, snuggling up against itself at the teat of nostalgia.
That's why I
mean,
will still
Comforting.
be in
Like-
line for the next Transformers movie.
Right, but
Forever and always.
to be fair, and
Really?
movie studios,
Wow.
movie studios
It's
totally,
Transformers.
but they get that. Movie studios totally get that, and they are now, as we know, positioning things based on franchise and property attachment versus star attachment. That's just the world that we're in at this particular moment in entertainment. However, you cannot dip back into a political moment in time. So when Salt came out, and it was because she was a Russian I was like, what are you talking about? This isn't even, they
Yeah.
want to do what? This is not even in their own economic interest to do that. And I felt the same, when Red Dawn came out, we were still in Cold War fever.
Right,
We
yeah.
still, that was
Yeah.
a real thing in our world that existed, and that was real. It could have come to war. It didn't, but it could have come to war between Russia and USSR and the United States. It could have. It didn't. Why would China invade the United States? They literally own half of it. It doesn't make any sense at all economically. We are too bound together economically. And so then they switch it to North Korea after the fact?
Okay, but couldn't an argument be made here? Couldn't an argument be made that at the time of the original Red Dawn, it was purposefully playing on that existing anxiety
Yes.
that we
Oh,
as
absolutely.
a country, as a society had about the Cold War and what could happen. I don't get any sense from this incarnation of Red Dawn that it is trying to play on that same fear. I don't get the sense that, hey, this is built upon our pre-existing anxieties of the North Koreans invading us. To me, it's like any other movie. It's like, okay, we're stepping into a world of fantasy here. Here's a scenario. Average kids in a small town, an invading army come. Irrelevant as to what the army is, but an invading army comes, and now we're just in for it. It seems like this movie is more about a badass, or wants to be, whether it accomplishes it or not is yet to be seen, but it wants to be a badass, fun action film, not really playing on the socio-political environment of the time.
Because a badass, fun action film that does play on the socio-political environment of the time and taps into the real psyche, cultural psyche that's happening, is the one that we respond to more. Because it's
I don't know. I
visceral.
responded pretty well to Expendables 2.
Well, that's a
I mean,
but that's a different thing.
but so it's
That's
just
a
that's what I'm
different
saying.
thing.
I feel like this particular
That's
Red
not gonna
Dawn
be
is a
funny.
different thing from the original Red. I feel like they're trying to make a completely different movie just with the same kind of premise to set it up and set things in motion. That's the feeling I get from
But
it.
do you think it's going to be fun like The Expendables, or do you think it's going to be taking itself quite seriously?
If I had to just base it on the trailer, I don't think, look, taking itself really seriously and parody are, I mean, it's not either or. There is some middle ground there. I do believe it's going to lean more this way of fun. I don't think it's going to try to be a drama action film. I think it's just going to be a quote unquote summer, even though it's not really summer season anymore. It's going to be a summer action film
film.
that
I mean-
doesn't try to be sociopolitically relevant or serious.
Yeah.
They're bringing in socio-political elements to it.
I think
and
still-
they're
I think you're overthinking it. It really
I mean, it's
is.
not like I think
it's
Red Dawn was a
just-
classic, by the
The
way.
reason why it's coming out is because they wanted to, they're grabbing at the video store. They're seeing what hasn't been touched. They made it. Hey, let's do Red Dawn. That was popular. Kids will like it, and they grab some hot talent who are and now they're releasing it when these talent are huge. This is purely money.
I mean, this is
You
great
can't
for them.
Even think about
and
it.
it would
You
have been
can't
better
even
for that
think
case,
about it.
obviously, because Hemsworth is big right now.
Yeah.
So let's release when Hemsworth's big.
Yeah.
Josh Hutcherson's coming off Hunger Games.
Yep.
He's big. And they were supposed to have a just coming off G.I. Joe 2, Adrian Pilecki, who was
Right.
supposed to be just coming off G.I. Joe 2 until they bumped it back a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I got to say, I like the cast.
Good cast.
I like Josh Hutcherson.
I do too.
So
He's awesome,
He's
right?
awesome.
He's
Like,
great.
I like Chris Hemsworth. I like Josh Hutcherson. I don't like them dipping back to something that doesn't make sense anymore. It doesn't make sense anymore for the time that we're in. Come up with something for this time. Look, even if you dip back into the past, why did people love Inglourious Bastards? Because it was satisfying to live out your own Nazi revenge fantasy. It feels good. It feels good.
but once again, I mean,
They did fix it. They changed the flags. Come on.
yeah, they did a lot. I mean, and that, I mean, yeah, I mean, you bring up Inglourious Bastards. I mean, they changed a lot.
Yeah.
They changed a lot.
That
in that
wasn't
movie.
true.
Wait a minute, that's not really how World War II ended?
But
What?
they were
Yeah.
because they embraced the fantasy. Don't you wish this is what would have happened? It says
Well, maybe.
wouldn't have been awesome.
But once again,
But that was
you enter
Quentin
into the world.
Tarantino, man. I mean, this is not Quentin
Fair
Tarantino
enough.
directing Red Dawn.
But you're entering in Inglourious Bastards. You're entering into a world where the filmmakers, Quentin Tarantino in particular, is asking you to suspend disbelief and say, okay, look, just forget real history for a second. Let's have some fun. And he goes into this world and makes it satisfying, makes it visceral, and makes it in doing so he makes it fun. And I think we have to at least be willing to give. And I know I like I said, I thought the trailer was kind of fun. We have to be willing to go into Red Dawn, giving it that same kind of breath to work in as we were with Inglourious Basterds. Say, okay, fine. This isn't the real world we live in. These aren't the real socio-political issues that we're facing today, nor the anxieties we're facing today. But okay, I'll come in, give you the benefit of the doubt. Now entertain me for an hour and a half or 2 hours. Maybe it'll be terrible. Maybe it'll be great. I just know that the Chris Hemsworth thing, the accent kicking in there, being the American hero, did pull me out of the trailer, but I think it's going to be one of those things where I'm probably going to sit there for the first 5 minutes of the movie and just get over it and then just embrace it, and then we'll see how it goes. But for me, I kind of dug the trailer. You were not a fan of the trailer.
Who knows? I may change my mind and like the movie. I don't like what the whole
Right,
idea of
and
it.
we got to specify here. We are just talking about a
Yeah.
trailer. We're not
Yeah.
talking. We have. I mean, I've seen lots of movies with terrible trailers that ended up being awesome movies. I've seen many awesome trailers that ended up being terrible movies. We're just talking about the trailer here. Jimmy, your thoughts?
You can't go in with high hopes on this one, and you can't overthink it. It's Red Dawn. I mean, the first one wasn't even that great.
No, it wasn't.
You know, you're
I'm
going-
not saying it was.
You're
either.
going. I mean, to really get into the social, political aspect, it's just like beating your head against a brick
But
wall.
at least it was based on something real. Okay, that's
Yeah.
Okay.
that's-
So listen, we need to move on here. We're going to be getting to the mailbag here in just a second. Don't forget, guys, if you're watching this live, start throwing all your questions and topics you'd like us to bring up in the chat board right now. And we're going to be getting to the mailbag because, as I mentioned before, every episode, you don't just have to watch us live in order to ask us questions. You can email us anytime, 24/7. And the email address where you can send us your questions and topics and things you'd like to have us bring up on the show is fycpodcastshow@gmail.com. Once again, the email address is fycpodcastshow@gmail.com. Just send us your questions, comments, and we're going to get to the mailbag that you guys sent us this week in just a second. For now, we're going to take a short break. You see, we've been talking a little bit about Expendables 2, and last week I actually had a chance to go down and chat with the cast of Expendables 2. And amongst the cast is one of my honest-to-goodness real-life heroes, and that's Randy the Natural Couture. So, former heavyweight, former light heavyweight champion of the UFC, one of the probably top 25 toughest human beings to ever walk the face of the earth. So I had a chance to go down and talk to the whole cast, but specifically, I'd like to share with you right now the interview that I did with Randy the Natural Couture and President Camacho himself, Terry Crews. Here's that interview. Terry, we'll start with you. I got to ask this. You're on a set with guys like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Statham, but you've got one of the 25 toughest human beings to ever walk the face of the earth on the set at the same time. What's that like working with Randy?
You know, it's funny because Randy will sneak up behind you and just kind of, give you like a little arm bar across your neck, and you're like, I like you, Randy, please. And you realize he can snap your neck at any moment. Or you feel that little thing against your knee, he's just like practicing, like, I could just take that out anytime. And you're like, yes, that you can, Randy. But no, let me tell you something. This man is one of the best actors, best individuals. We really hit it off, especially after the first one. And, it's a privilege because, you know what? He can whoop all our asses, and he does it. And I appreciate him, and I'm telling you, I want to fight next to this guy, not against him, ever.
Randy, I want to ask you too, but like you come into an action film like this, and you got the fighting and the guns and stuff like that, and a lot of action films can just get lost in that. But one of the best things about this movie, I find, is this chemistry and camaraderie. Like some of my favorite scenes are just when there's no action going on and you guys are just interacting. Talk about the chemistry and the camaraderie you guys had on set.
Yeah, I think that's a very important part of this movie, and what really makes it special is that not only do we have that kind of personal chemistry off when we're doing our own thing, but I think the characters have that as well. And there's kind of that quirky vibe. Like if you've been part of any team anywhere, you guys know each other so well. You know what buttons to push. You know, to get a reaction, to get a rise out of somebody. And I don't think anybody does that better than Sly. He kind of captures that and kind of orchestrated a lot of that. And, you know, with shiftings around, you had to kind of be on your toes. And it's like, you know, let's have him say that and say it like this, and just kind of tweaked it and I think made it what it was. And I think that it's a very cool part of the movie. My favorite scene is the pizzeria. And kind of that's where a lot of that comes, that levity. And I think in a movie with as much action as this movie has, you kind of need those moments to catch your breath.
Now, once again, you get action films like this, and there's so much action in this film that is so great. But, you know, a lot of movies try to just pull out a lot of guns, a lot of actions, and think that that's going to make it fun. And it doesn't necessarily. Expendables 2 is so much fun to watch. I mean, a bunch of critics and I walked out of a screen last night and said, you know, if this was playing again right now, we would turn around and walk back in and watch it again. But it's not just the guns and the fighting. What is it about Expendables 2 that makes it so fun for people to go in and just sit down and watch it and have a big smile on their face?
Well, you know, for me, it's what the essence of acting really is. It's like people think it's about lines, and they mess up with that. It's about the connection. You see yourself. The thing is, you identify something in those characters that you know, and that is what you want. That is what you recognize. It's not a bunch of lines. It's not a blown up car. It's not a blown up bridge. It's really like, I know those guys. I've been there with them. I could hang with them. I see them, and I love them. And it's a trick to play in that. And again, when I love what Sly has built, because he knows it. And that's why he's been so successful in all these sequels and all the stuff he's done. He gets what people want to identify. When you look at Rocky, you identify with Rocky, the lovable loser, that guy, and you identify with every one of the characters.
Well, listen, guys, congratulations on the film. I loved it so much, and we can't wait to have it on AMC screens.
You got it. Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, guys. And don't forget, folks, Expendables 2 opens in AMC theaters everywhere this week. You can go ahead and get your tickets for that or The Odd Life of Timothy Green or Paranorman at www.amctheaters.com. Now, as I mentioned before, it's time for our mailbag installment where we take the questions that you guys sent to us this week at fycpodcastshow.com at gmail.com. So, Ryan, what do we got in the mailbag?
Well, today we've got a question from Corey Brown, who asks, after Peter Jackson finishes his Hobbit trilogy, what are your thoughts on Peter Jackson directing his take of Homer's The Odyssey? Keep up the great work. Love the new show. Corey Brown.
Roth, let's start with you. What do you think?
I think that's something I'd really like to see. I mean, I think The Odyssey is clearly a lot to take on, and I would be fascinated to see how audiences would respond to that. We don't always sort of have a huge outpouring at the box office for classic books turned into films, but if there's one person, well, I can think of a couple other people that I'd like to see take on the Odyssey, actually, but Peter Jackson might be great.
I have to agree completely. I mean, at one point, people thought Lord of the Rings, really? No way. And he did it. He made it work. I think there's so much. I wish more people would take classic literature and make movies out of it. There's so much room to really do some really amazing stuff. So Peter Jackson, hell yeah.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't "O Brother, Where Art Thou" basically an interpretation of the Odyssey?
It was, yeah.
I just don't know. I just don't know how well Odyssey would be received.
I don't know either.
Kind of in a literal interpretation.
Yeah.
I mean, "O Brother, Where Art Thou" was fantastic.
Yeah,
I
I
love
agree.
that movie. And I almost see that if you try to do another Odyssey, you'd almost have to do it as an interpretation again. But, I mean, hey, like you said, a lot of people didn't think Lord of the Rings could be done properly, and look what we got.
Well, especially somebody with that kind of visual acumen and aesthetic. he could bring something to it that would draw audiences in, perhaps visually, maybe.
Right. But I also kind of feel that after King Kong and The Lord of the Rings and now The Hobbit, I think Peter Jackson is probably going to be at the point where I'm done doing stuff off of other people's work. Maybe it's one. I just got a feeling that's where he'd be.
I wouldn't mind seeing another Heavenly Creatures.
I thank you. I love
great
that movie
movie.
so much. Everyone see Heavenly Creatures.
Please, seriously.
Okay, Ryan, what else we got?
All right. Next up, we have an email from Jacob who asks, "Hey guys, I love the show and wanted to ask you, what films from today, that is 2005 onwards, do you believe will be remade in 30 years from now? My picks are Taken and Scott Pilgrim. It's cult films that are mostly remade, not classics." That comes from Jacob London.
Well, I mean, in a week where it depends on what your definition of classic is. In a week where Total Recall comes out, it depends. Once again, it depends on your definition of classic. What could be remade in the next 30 years? Everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think
everything.
off limits.
Nothing is off limits. Nothing other than maybe complete box office disaster films. But just about everything is, and I'm not just being facetious, and I'm not just trying to gloss over the question. I would be shocked if you showed me any movie with any degree of reasonable success that wasn't remade by the time I was 60.
I think too that we have to remember that we're in a particular moment in entertainment history right now, but it's going to be a different moment at some day. I mean, the big films, the studio staples, as it were, change over time. You know, at one time it was Westerns, and then it was kind of like gangster cop films, and now we have a lot of comic book movies and big sort of summer franchise re-adaptations. But it will be different in 30 years. I don't know what it'll be.
Well, remakes will never die. I mean,
No,
if
they
you
won't.
look back at Maltese Falcon, I think that was remade twice or three times.
Right.
You know, it's nothing new, but the problem is right now everything is remade. It is literally a throw the dice, let's see what comes up. However, today, I think you're right on. Everything can be remade, whether good or bad. We're at that stage right now. Maybe in 10 years we won't be seeing this with films not doing so well, with remakes not doing as well as they could. Maybe we'll get to that point.
And we might see even an upsurge, because periodically in the midst of all of that, we'll often see an upsurge of kind of darker dramas. We'll see film change. People will come in and want to get experimental and change the way film is done a little bit, or play with it a little bit. And we might start to, over the next couple of years, see that rise up a little bit more as well. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, for me, as a race of people, the human race, we are storytellers. And good stories deserve being retold. I mean, I know a lot of people, I have this argument all the time with some people that say, you know, they should have left. One of my favorite cop films, maybe my favorite cop film of all time, is a film called Infernal Affairs. My all-time favorite cop movie. And there are a lot of people who love that film. And of course, Martin Scorsese then took that film, remade it in North America, and called it The Departed. And of course won the Academy Award for Best Picture, finally won Scorsese his Academy Award for Best Director, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, a lot of people say, you know, they should just leave it alone. It's good enough as it is. Okay, yeah, maybe it is. But nobody's seen it. Nobody has seen Infernal Affairs. And it is not the audience's responsibility. You are responsible to go out and see this film. And if you don't deserve to see a retelling of it. No. Infernal Affairs is such a great story and such a great movie in itself. It deserved North American telling. And I believe the same can be said with a lot older films that, hey, you know what? Yeah, that film was great in 1968. But nobody today has seen it. It's such a good story, it deserves to be retold. And I'll have that argument with people all the time. So anyway, that's just my basic, I have no problem with remakes. Anyway, what else we got, Ryan?
All right. Lastly, we have from Ryan Parmesan. My question for John and the panel is, what is your favorite Bond film and why?
Ooh.
Okay, I'll start. And I just had this conversation with somebody like a week ago. I'm going to call it a tie. One is going to be Casino Royale, and it's not just because it's fairly recent. I just think it's one of the best Bond films ever made. I mean, it's got atmosphere, it's got the tension, it's got the intrigue, it's got the espionage, it's got everything a Bond film should have. Tied with that for me would be Octopussy, and besides the fact that it's just a great Bond film, to me, there's also a nostalgic factor in that it was the first Bond film I ever watched. was Octopussy, and it's just always stuck with me in my head to be that measuring bar by which all other Bond films are measured. So for me, it would be Octopussy and Casino Royale.
I'll agree with you on Casino Royale. I think it was fantastic. I think the older Bond, I'd prefer probably Goldfinger.
Well, yeah, I can't argue.
Yeah.
So bizarre.
I mean, yeah, so bizarre. So who can't get that image out of their head?
Yeah.
The golden girl, you know?
Yeah.
So,
no,
yeah.
what's bizarre is those are the 3 movies.
Oh, that
I
you
was
were.
thinking of. Yeah. No, literally, I was like, well, number 1 would be Casino Royale for the reasons we've said. It really, to me, is probably the best Bond film.
I agree.
And maybe that's just because how we like to watch films at this particular moment in time. But the other 2 that I have an extreme nostalgic attachment to are Octopussy and Goldfinger. And maybe that's just because, like you say, those were the ones that I watched with my family a lot. And also there are some iconic images in both of those films.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Now I'm probably going to go home and watch Moonraker tonight or something. Okay.
For your eyes only.
Yeah. All right, folks. Listen, thank you. That'll be it for the mailbag. It's time for us to move on to the part of the show where we just kind of leave the questions and the programming up to the live audience. So Ryan back there has been watching the chat board all day. So Ryan, what are people in the chat boarding saying? What are people in the chat board saying? What are the questions? What are the topics they want to hear discussed?
We have been chatboarding all morning, and so far we got a lot of Indiana Jones questions. So we're going to change it up a bit here, change gears, and let's see. Will they ever do another Indiana Jones movie with a new actor? What do you guys think? From Lee Brandt 33. In conjunction to that question, we started a little controversy here. Totally Cool says, I highly doubt that. Indiana Jones is way too iconic. But going back to 007, yeah, Lee Brandt replies, but they use several actors for 007, which is equally iconic. What do you guys think?
I would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I really wouldn't.
They did it, young Indiana Jones.
Yeah. That's the answer to the question, is that they've already done it.
They've
They've already done it.
With Sean Patrick Flannery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in talking about moving forward,
Yeah.
not as long as George Lucas is alive. Although it's funny saying that because, I mean, I think their plan, the big master plan of Spielberg and Lucas was Shia LaBeouf was going to take over the Indiana Jones franchise. I thought Crystal Skull, besides being a horrible mess of a movie, was one of the intentions of that film was to pass the baton to the next generation and not reboot Indiana Jones, but rather continuing it with now the son.
Kind of like what they're doing with Bourne.
Right, we've gone from Sean Connery, I mean, in the story timeline, we've gone from Sean Connery to Indiana Jones to his son. What was Shia LaBeouf's name? It was some ridiculous. Spike Spike was transformed.
Something like that.
But it was something similar like that. He chased a lot of monkeys through the swinging jungles.
Yeah, I think the monkey
As
will
you
be a
do.
sidekick.
Yeah,
He'll have
one of the
little
many
monkey.
monkeys will be the sidekick. But I just, considering the reaction that film got, the fourth one, and let's call it, Indiana Jones is not just iconic. It's beyond iconic. It's like there's like 50, 60, 70 different images you could have in your head of like that. I embody Hollywood and what the movies are. But then there's like a shelf up above that one where there's maybe 4 or 5, and Indiana Jones is one of those. I mean, so to me, Indiana Jones is completely iconic. I think it's too early to be talking remake for Indiana Jones because we did just have, or reboot, because we just had one just a couple years ago. And as long as George Lucas is alive, I don't think he'll let it happen.
Well, I think the thing with Indiana Jones, though, too, is that it was such a perfect marriage between actor and character with Harrison Ford, bringing that role to life.
And it wasn't even supposed to be him.
And it wasn't even supposed to be him. Well, and the thing
it was
about
supposed to be Tom Selleck.
Yeah, which we would be having a very different conversation right now, I think, if it hadn't been Harrison Ford. Because what Harrison Ford, his best moments in the films that we love him so much in, like Indiana Jones and like the Star Wars, the best moments, the most iconic moments for those characters are Harrison Ford's interpretation, like this. Boom. He was sick.
Yes.
He was sick and he couldn't do the whip fight, so he shot the guy. We can't forget it. When I know. I love you, I know.
Yeah.
That's Harrison Ford. That is not scripted. And so I think that in order to have another Indiana Jones, you're going to have to find that perfect marriage again, and that's just fate.
He's
Either it will or it
irreplaceable.
won't.
He's
Yeah,
irreplaceable.
he's-
There's no way you could.
You can't.
No, they may try. I think they might. I think they very well might try it, but why bother?
Yeah, like I said, I just can't see it happening. But if it did, I think it would be Shia LaBeouf or another
won't
actor
do
taking over Shia LaBeouf's
Yeah.
I don't
role.
think he would
Shia
do
would
it.
not
I don't
do
think
it.
he would
He's
do
on
it
a
either.
different track.
I think even he's kind of like, seriously, that was a mistake.
It didn't work.
Yeah,
it didn't
work.
work. All right, what else we got, Ryan?
All right, next up we have from Ezra's huge reviews. What do you guys think of the insane amount of movies that got pushed back from 2012 to 2013 this year? Actually, recently.
I mean, it is. It does feel like, look, movies change their opening dates.
Right.
It happens. But I got to admit, it does feel like not only is there been a higher number this year of movies
Bigger films.
moving around, but major moves with
Yeah.
major films. Of course, just last week we talked about the fact that The Great Gatsby, which with
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio, that I've really directed by Baz Luhrmann, that I've been really looking forward to, has not just been, look, when we talk about movies being moved, usually it's a week or two. Ted got moved up, I think, 2 weeks. Okay,
yeah.
that happens all the time, but
Yeah.
Great Gatsby's been pushed back to a year.
A year out.
G.I. Joe 2 got pushed back 9.5
Well,
months.
G.I. Joe 2 got a total, stream home makeover.
Well,
that thing's been
Oh, they're not
gutted.
admitting
Yeah.
that. They're not admitting that, but that's
I
what they're
think
doing.
all movies that have been pushed back this year, it's to make room for more Channing Tatum. That's serious.
So
That's
we're
all
going to
we're
see a lot of Channing Tatum. in The
Yay,
Great
Channing
Gatsby.
Tatum. We'll see you soon, buddy.
All right, we got time for 2 more questions.
All right, so let's see. We have, besides The Incredibles, which John mentioned, what other movies do you think deserve a sequel? That comes from Totally Cool in the chat.
Movies or
box.
Pixar movies?
Movies in general.
All right.
Yeah.
My Bloody Valentine too. Sorry. I love that character.
There are a couple of films that really, actually, I think there's a whole episode we could probably do sometime on films that should get sequels. I mean, in the midst of a lot of film fans complaining, not enough originality, too many sequels, there are a lot of films we would love to see sequels to. I'm going to mention a couple of weird ones. One is not so weird. Mystery Men. Dear
Oh my
heavens,
God.
Mystery Men. I would camp out for a week to get tickets to be the first in line to watch a sequel to Mystery Men.
If you guys haven't seen this, it's hilarious.
But we all know you wouldn't have to.
Well, this is true.
I won't have to.
It's a pretty small movie for
but
a sequel.
I mean, Ben Stiller, of course, as
I'm thinking of Mystery Team.
oh no, I'm
thinking
talking
of
Mystery
I'm sorry,
Men.
I'm thinking of a
Mystery
very,
Man.
very
Oh, is it Captain
indie,
Anger
very,
or-
very
No,
hilarious
Mr.
movie
Furious.
called
Furious.
Mystery Team. So negate anything that I
Mystery
just
Team
said
is very
about
different,
Yeah.
that being hilarious.
com-
Mystery Team is hilarious.
but completely inferior to Mystery Men.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Hank Azaria as the Blue Raja, one of the greatest roles ever in the history of Hollywood.
Who did Janine Garofalo play?
The bowler.
Yeah, the bowler.
She played
Yeah.
the bowler. Then you had the invisible boy who could only turn invisible when nobody's watching him
William H. Macy.
as the shoveler.
The shoveler.
William H. Macy as the shoveler. This movie, and then the villains. Casanova Frankenstein as the main villain. The Disco Boys. I mean, this movie is so freaking good. And you got Tom Waite in the beginning of the film hanging out at senior citizens' homes to pick up on the ladies. This movie is so classic. And no one's ever done. They never will do it, but I'd be in line. And the other one that I'm sure none of you have seen, and it's just because I was like probably 11 or 12 years old when I first saw it, and I loved it even though it's completely horrible, is Megaforce. I would watch a Megaforce 2. Life is like a circle. No, life is like a wheel. It all comes around. So those are movie. I want to see the Mystery Men, and I want to see a sequel to Megaforce.
What do you got, Jimmy?
I've got, again, My Bloody Valentine. Patrick Lussier, Todd Farmer. They created one of... see, I love the original. Dude, a miner with a pickaxe coming at you is scary as you know what. I mean, this guy was... just one of my favorite villains as a kid, and I couldn't believe they made a good remake, and the 3D was awesome. It was one of those rare
Yeah.
slasher flicks that just worked on every level. Hey, maybe I'm crazy. I love that movie.
Yeah.
What about you, Ralph? What sequels do you like to see?
I don't have anything off the top of my head. I really don't. And it's not because I'm totally opposed to sequels. I'm not. But I just think that off the top of my head, I don't have anything that I particularly am like, gotta see that.
Just say My Bloody Valentine.
My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah, shit's
Yeah.
Greg Kinnear as Captain Amazing. I mean, come on. You've got us. Mystery Men, please, heavens, please.
Wait, I do have to tell you, John, we got a tweet.
Okay, what's the tweet say?
John Campia, when you're allowed, please let me know your thoughts on Cosmopolis. He hasn't seen it. Very curious, J. Rusty, too, if you could. I would love to. Hashtag Strange is right. And I cannot wait to talk about this movie, but we're embargoed right now.
Can't
but,
talk.
but now it's officially on the docket. John has to.
We will make sure we
do it.
have Cosmopolis. All right, we got time for one more thing here, Ryan. What do we got?
All right, last question of the day. I saved selfishly for myself. With Joss Whedon's new popularity, do you see Serenity 2 at some point?
No.
Oh, please. I wish. I
No,
wish.
no, no, no,
Yes.
no, no. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yep.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I love Joss. Anyone that knows anything about me knows that. There is not a single episode of any piece of television that he's done that I have not seen. I freaking love Firefly. Serenity wrapped up that story so perfectly, so beautifully done, so absolutely satisfying. Why do we
Because-
need to go back to it?
What about a series? What if they brought back as a series?
I can't see them doing that. But here's why.
I'd be more open to that.
Because Firefly / Serenity was never about the narrative. It was about those characters.
Yep.
It was about the characters,
always,
but the narrative played a big role in that movie.
yeah, but it was almost a very episodic show many times, where they just near the end of the all too short season,
Oh, way
only
too
season of
short.
Firefly, did they really start to get into what the real overarching story was. They only started to touch on it. And then Serenity kind of wrapped up what everything they were going to do in season 2, they wrapped up in one brilliant 2-hour film. I love Serenity.
Yeah.
Loved it.
But the main thing about Serenity was never about. I mean, we didn't even know until the movie that the reason they were really after River was because she knew the existence of this planet.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why they wrapped it up so beautiful.
But
what
it
the
doesn't matter.
Reavers
That
were.
story's done. That
That
story's
story's
done.
done. They
But
could
I
move
want to
on.
hang out with Mal more. I want to hang out with Jane
bet.
more. I want to hang out with. I mean, well, we can't with the preacher anymore. But I
Yeah.
want to hang out with Honora more. I want to hang out with Kaylee more. I want to hang out with Doc and River more.
More Summer Glau, please.
I
all
would be
No.
open more to a series than to another film, because I think that film really stands on its own, and I don't know if you want to hang out with them more, then let's get them a series and we can watch.
They
them
need
on
a new
television.
pilot.
But once again, an
Yeah.
argument of get this whole concept of that the story is wrapped up, leave it alone. Look, Godfather, the end of that movie, done. Godfather was done at the end of that movie, perfectly finished, perfectly wrapped up. One of the best endings of any film in history. The door closing, the guys kissing the ring, done. No need for Godfather 2. And what do we get? One of the greatest films of all time in The Godfather 2.
I'm not arguing. And you know the reason that you're bringing up The Godfather? And do you know the reason that everybody brings up The Godfather when the subject of sequels comes up? Because it's so freaking rare.
No, look at the
sequel
Lord of the
is
Rings
that
films.
good.
Look
at
Star Wars
Expendables
films.
2.
Lord
That's
of
all
the
I'm saying.
Expendables
No,
2.
it's not
Back
a
to the
sequel.
Future.
Look
Empire
at X-Men
Strikes
2.
Back.
Look at Spider-Man 2.
that was
Look at The Dark
designed
Knight.
as a
Look at
series.
no. Look,
No. We need another Serenity. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, look,
I want more.
We have got to wrap this thing up. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us. By all means, keep going in the chat board. Talk to each other about what you think about all this kind of stuff, whether it's sequels or Serenity or Expendables 2 or Paranorman or whatever it is. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, I want to thank my guests. First of all, Jimmy O, thank you so much for being
It was
here.
fun.
Don't forget to follow him on Twitter at Jimmy to the O, and make sure you go and check out his stuff at joeblow.com. Our associate editor of movie news around here at AMC, Miss Roth Cornett. Roth, thank you so much.
AKA J-Ro.
AKA J-Ro. And then there's me. And of course, Ryan back at the board. We got Dennis Dezen, who you can't see right now, sitting over there running the whole damn show. Thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, we'll be back again on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We look forward to seeing you guys then. Until next time, my name's John Campia. Bye-bye.